Peace and blessings of revisiting the book of Enoch. I think it's time to do a reading on it.
Also, after revisiting the book of Eli, which is the life that some of us have been called to live in these last days. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. Now, for those who are new to the channel, just a couple of things. I don't want to call them disclaimers, but call them what you want to. First and foremost, if you're new here and you're questioning a couple of things, I want to give you a couple of answers. First is the constant and annoying, irritating slowing down of my voice. That's not done on my end. It's not done purposefully. If I were to add some kind of effect to what I was doing, I would at least do it on beat. Secondly, for those who wonder why, or I don't even know how to word it, for those who I guess assume that I don't know what scholars say concerning certain things, you should look at a couple of my testimonies before you make comments that will be ignored. Secondly, or refuted. Secondly, to that point, I don't believe what scholars have said concerning a great deal of things, especially after testing those things out in practical application in real life situations. It is akin to reading a manual about how to dance or how to swim, and then telling somebody who's been out in the waters or on the dance floor what they doing wrong. What I would challenge you to do is, instead of taking the words of the academics and the scholars who have been approved and who have achieved their degrees by fraternities and universities, you should check it out and test it out yourself. And I pray that the all-knowing, almighty, true and living God gives you the experiences that I've had, so that you can test those things out for yourself. Because you'll never take my word for it, and maybe you shouldn't. But my testimony is true, and it's what led me to disbelieve the things that are taught in mass to those who are seeking the truth concerning the name of the Messiah, concerning Hebrew. Now, if you speak fluent Hebrew, perhaps I'll give you an ear. But otherwise, you have learned what you know from the Zionist elite, or the universities that are funded by philanthropic groups and families who by and large are connected to the brotherhood families. And they have an agenda. They have an incentive to lie. And so therefore, you can save it, put it in your pocket for later, because I'm not trying to hear your regurgitation of what you've learned through reading the books that are approved by brotherhoods. Okay? Because I found out, like we found out, a lot of things are lies. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel no type of way. But we found out many things are lies. And now, realize. And we're starting to see that some of the things that we've taken for granted, like those of us who are into reading books tend to do, we've taken for granted that on this planet, where things are done by the most underhanded societies to keep not only the downtrodden down, but the intellectual bound, that there are lies in their books, and those are the things that are done. And we don't consider that. We don't consider that Maybe what I've read has been tainted. We don't consider that. We think, and it's a little elitist to think so. I did. But we tend to think that, well, I found it. And so because I found it, because I read it, and grandma didn't, or my mans across the street didn't, I'm higher. So I have a greater grasp of what is true because I read it in a book, like you can too. You don't know what's true until you test it out. So with that being said, we're going to look into the book of Enoch. And first, a little encouragement for those who come here, regularly, and they know what time it is already. I thank you all for your prayers. I thank you all for your encouragement. And I thank you all for your obedience to the Most High, which is your choice and your free will. And so you do deserve some thanks for choosing to side with the right side, not the left-hand path. So remember to run and don't get weary. Isaiah 40:31. And that the race is not given to the swift. Ecclesiastes 9:11. For you are more than a conqueror. Romans 8:37. You can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. Philippians 4:13. You are the head and not the tail. Deuteronomy 8:13. You shall be blessed going in and coming out. Deuteronomy 28:6. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises up against you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Remember, like the old folks used to say, don't let the devil steal your joy. Nehemiah 8:10. So stay up. Delight yourself in the Lord. Psalm 37:4. And he shall give you the desires of your heart. That doesn't mean he'll give you every little silly, foolish, frivolous thing that you want, but that he will put the desires in your heart. He will change your definition for what you need and what you think you desire, and he will put it on a level that's much higher. Lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy doings acknowledge the Lord thy God, and he shall direct your paths. Proverbs 3:5, one of my favorites. The Holy Spirit shall teach you things that you know not. Jeremiah 3:33, which at the end of the day, that should be what you are testing things out through. Okay, not just because it says that it was written by Dr. Egghead, professor of theology at so-and-so university. Okay, because 9 times out of 10, that dude is just a heavy-duty nerd that is telling you something he heard. Him shall he teach in the way he shall choose. Psalm 25:12. For you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. And the gates of hell shall not prevail against this church. This is one of the churches being built without spot or blemish. It ain't me that's without spot or blemish. I'm a flawed man. But according to Matthew 16:18, there is one that will be built up, and it shall be for these last days and times, the time for the Matthew 24 crew. So be of good cheer. John 16:33, Acts 27:25. And have a merry heart. That's right. Some is wrong with that's Proverbs 17:22. Some is wrong when folks are so burdened with a heavy heart, and we all have our challenges that we go through, but there is no comfort from their words, and there's no comfort in them. They're not comfortable. Well, the Holy Spirit is called the Comforter. So how can you have the Comforter within you and you uncomfortable in doing what you got to do? Don't talk to me. So call unto him, and he will show you great and mighty things. Of course, it's Jeremiah 33:3. And he shall hide us under the shadow of his wings. Psalm 17:8 and Psalm 57:1. And he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 91. And we're done. Now let's continue. The book of Enoch. We're done with that. We're going to continue with this. The word of the blessing of Enoch. How he blessed the elect and the righteous who were to exist in the time of trouble. So this was a book, this was one of the scrolls that it's now time to unroll. It's for now. Some things, people will quarrel about whatever if you let them. But some things were for certain times. Okay, all scripture is good. Okay, for learning and for edification. But there are some certain things that the Lord does according to divine order and divine timing. So we're now in the timing for the elect to start shining. Believe it. Rejecting all the wicked and ungodly. Enoch, a righteous man who was with God, answered and spoke while his eyes were open, and while he saw a holy vision in the heavens. This the angels showed me. Now this is the Richard Lawrence translation. There is the H. Charles translation that's a latter version, but we're going to deal with the one a little bit earlier. There is no King James version by that entitlement anyway, but this is the one I felt led by the Holy Spirit, Jeremiah 33:3, for us to read. So you may feel led to read H. Charles, and it's all good to me. It's all good when it's all God. This the angels showed me. From them I heard all things and understood what I saw, that which will not take place in this generation, but in a generation which is to succeed at a distant period on account of the elect. So again, this book is now in effect. Upon their account I spoke and conversed with him, who will go forth from his habitation, the holy and mighty one, the God of the world. Okay, now there's a difference between the God of this age, the prince of this world, the prince of the power of the air, and the true and living, all-knowing, supreme being, who is the king of everything, who will hereafter tread upon Mount Sinai, appear with his hosts, and be manifested in the strength of his power from heaven. All shall be afraid, and the watchers be terrified. And when you look up in the sky, when we were kids, we would look up and we would say, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Now we're starting to understand that when you're looking up in the sky, you're not always looking at what we've been told by science, so-called, is heavenly bodies. Interesting terminology. And we think of those things as lifeless mounds of rock, whether you call them stars or planets. But now we're starting to understand it. Sometimes you're actually looking up, not at granite, but at a being. Lucifer and his angels, he and his ministers, can transform and disguise and hide themselves as beings of light. Let's continue. And they're called the Watchers. Alright? Interesting, Dr. Dre had that song. Great fear and trembling shall seize them. Talking about the Watchers. Even to the ends of the earth. Now these are the bosses. These are the bosses of all bosses. They boss the Brotherhood members. Okay, the Brotherhood members tremble in their presence. They think that they are blessed by them. They are guided by them. They think that they have some control of them. Okay, but even in the song Wrapped Around Your Finger, or I'll be wrapped around your finger, by the Sting of the Police, he tells the tale of how you think that you are the master, but in reality the servant is your master. You're told that they're serving you. And all of the books that you'll read on the occult and how to get in touch with certain spiritual entities, whether you call them ancestors or whatever you call them, it don't matter what you call them. They got a billion different names. In every culture, they came down. We call them the fallen. The fallen came down, and they put it down in different ways. They disguised themselves, just as the evil one disguised himself to Adam and Eve time and time again. As we read the extension of the story of Adam and Eve, we found that a number of times he came down and He shapeshift. He changed himself. And so the same thing happened in antiquity, time and time again. You'll find that different cultures all over the world, even those that we hold near and dear to our hearts, were fooled by these fallen beings from the very beginning. Okay? Great fear and trembling shall seize them even to the ends of the earth. The lofty mountains shall be troubled, and the exalted hills depressed, melting like a honeycomb in the flame. The earth shall be emerged, and all things which are in it perish, while judgment shall come upon all, even upon all the righteous. But to them shall he give peace. He shall preserve the elect, and towards them exercise clemency. Then shall all belong to God, be happy and blessed, and the splendor of the Godhead shall illuminate them. Chapter 2. Behold, he comes with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon them, and destroy the wicked, and reprove all the carnal, for everything which the sinful and ungodly have done and committed against him. Chapter 3. All who are in the heavens know what is transacted there. They know that the heavenly luminaries, illumination, light, stars, change not their paths. They each rises and sets regularly, every one at its proper period, without transgressing the commands which they have received. They behold the earth and understand what is there transacted from the beginning to the end of it. So we look up in the sky and we see the things that light up, the moon, the sun, the stars, and we've been told that they're one thing by science, one thing by the universities and their books, one thing by scholars and academics, and by the Spirit we're told something else. You think that man was simply primitive because he looked up at those things and he gave them worship. Then you look at Roman pantheon of gods and you'll see, just like there's Saturn and Jupiter worship, you'll see that the names of their gods, which were the same Greek gods, did the same feats, quote unquote, the same mighty men of renown, but in the Greek they will have one name, and in the Roman you will find the names for what we call the planets. These were beings. Okay, people talk about Mother Earth like a living being, or Gaia. Okay, this is where this is that same concept. It is a living entity. The earth is a representation of a living body. That's why they're called heavenly bodies, bodies of water. See, the people that pick the names of things understand these things. We do not, because we are taught science, so-called. And again, I'm not against science. I'm somewhat of a man of science, a student of science. But I've learned to test it and not take everything at face value and not believe something simply because it's been told to me 100 times by 100 scholars who get paid dollars to tell me that. Brotherhood members, let's continue. They see that every work of God is invariable in the period of its appearance. They behold summer and winter, perceiving that the whole earth is full of water, and that the cloud, the dew, and the rain refresh it. Chapter 4. They consider and behold every tree, how it appears to wither, and every leaf to fall off, except of 14 trees, which are not deciduous, which wait from the old to the appearance of the new leaf for 2 or 3 winters. Again, this is talking about those who are watching, what they know. Chapter 5. Again, they consider the days of summer, that the sun is upon it at its very beginning, while you seek for a covered and shady spot on account of the burning sun, while the earth is scorched up with fervid heat. Effectual and fervent prayer. Again, you see that root having to do with fire. Fiery prayer. Put some feeling in it. And you become incapable of walking either upon the ground or upon the rocks in consequence of that heat. Chapter 6. They consider how the trees, when they put forth their green leaves, become covered, and produce fruit, understanding everything, and knowing that he who lives forever does all these things for you, that the works at the beginning of every existing year, that all his works are subservient to him and invariable, yet as God has appointed, so are all things brought to pass. They see too how the seas and the rivers together complete their respective operations. Now this is giving you the understanding that the reason that the fallen are able to seize control is that they see things as a whole. They're on the high ground looking down. But you endure not patiently, nor fulfill the commandments of the Lord, but you transgress and calumniate his greatness, and malignant are the words in your polluted mouths against his majesty. Let's say that again. But you endure not patiently, nor fulfill the commandments of the Lord, but you transgress and calumniate his greatness, and malignant are the words in your polluted mouths against his majesty. And talk down against the Most High. You withered in heart, no peace shall be to you. Have some heart about yourself. Therefore your days shall you curse, and the years of your lives shall perish, perpetual execration. The heart of many shall wax cold. Men's hearts will fail them for fear. Perpetual execration shall be multiplied, and you shall not obtain mercy. In those days shall you resign your peace with the eternal maledictions of all the righteous, and sinners shall perpetually execrate you, with the ungodly. Look it up. EXECRATE. Execrate. The elect shall possess light, joy, and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. But you, ye unholy, shall be accursed. Then shall wisdom be given to the elect, all of whom shall live, and not again transgress by impiety or pride, but shall humble themselves, possessing prudence, and shall not repeat transgression. Okay. You may transgress. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They shall not be condemned the whole period of their lives, nor die in torment and indignation, but the sum of their days shall be completed, and they shall grow old in peace, while the years of their happiness shall be multiplied with joy and with peace forever, the whole duration of their existence. Chapter 7. Let's get into it. It happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, again you find this same dynamic between the fact that we're told a lie about the celestial bodies, okay, and the word sun for the thing that shines up high in the sky, and the word son for male child. Let's continue. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, beheld them, because they light up the sky, they became enamored of them. Beheld who? The daughters of men, who were elegant and beautiful, saying to each other, come, let us select for ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. So they began to want children, and they started to look one to another. You've seen that before when somebody get a bad idea, instead of just going on their own and doing it, misery love company. Then their leader, Samyaza, said to them, I fear that you may perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer for so grievous a crime. See, he didn't want to go on his own. But they answered him and said, we all swear. You know how you put that, I've done it before. You put that guilt on your homeboys to come and do this dirt with you. And bind ourselves by mutual execrations that we will not change our intention, but execute our projected undertaking. So they basically pledging, we're down. Then they swore all together and all bound themselves by mutual execrations. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armon. Now, we've talked a number of times about Mount Armon. It is also the root of a great many words. We've looked at those words before. If you're new here, for the benefit of you here, this is what I'm going to do here. I'll write down a few of the words that come from this infamous mountain called Armon. This is also synonymous with Hermes. Doctors say their oath. Physician do no harm and all of that. And they say it to Hermes. Well, you have to look at the words the way that we've been doing for so long now. Remember the A and the E, how they interchange. Okay? Remember the H can be silent, as in pharmacy, PH, and pharmacy also comes from this, Harmon, Armon. PH serves as another letter, which would be F, or as a single sound, which is the sound that the F makes. Okay? So we have a number of words that come from this. And here's just a few. And we're going to get back to doing what we got to do. Okay, the mount that the fallen landed on is called Armon. Okay, some of you remember St. Elsewhere, which was a show about a hospital called St. Elsewhere. It used to be on NBC's primetime lineup. It starred Mark Harmon. He had the last name. Sometimes you'll find Mount Harmon spelled with an H in the front. In this translation, it happens to be spelled without the H because the H is not totally necessary. Harmony, harmony with harmony. Harmony, also from Armon. Hermes, as we said. You see the relationship? Hermes and harmony. Harm. Physician do no harm. Right in it. It's double-minded from the jump, which is why you have the double snake on the staff. Don't let nobody tell you no different. Give me a better reason besides something that you've read by those who are out to put treason in your head. Farmon, where you get farming and farm from. The pharmacy. The farm used to be your pharmacy. We used to get your herbs and whatnot to make medicine. And you'll see that all of that was brought down by the fallen. Remind me to tell you about the dream I had about Semyaza when I first heard that name. Maybe we'll, not to hold up the lesson any longer, but just very quickly, just to show you that there's something to this. When I did not know who Semyaza was, I had I would say it's Semyase, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I had a dream in the 90s. Maybe it was the early 2000s, but I had a dream some time ago where I was approaching an altar, and there was a woman laying on the altar who was a quite curvaceous woman. I mean, her proportions were like that of an anime drawing. Okay, her hips were way out of proportion. No woman's hips and thighs and everything is that curvy. But she was laying on her side facing me on this altar, and I was walking down the aisle of a temple or a church. I thought it to be a church in the dream. And as I approached her, I don't remember what all we communicated, but I remember we was kicking it, and I knew she was supposed to be mine. And I asked her in the next scene of the dream, which just shifted, you know, our dreams will do that, from being in the temple or the church to now we're out in a field up under a tree. And she was laying on her side again, so I could see this hip. And I was laying there too on the grass, and I asked her, I said, what is your name? And she said, Semyase. And I woke up, and I always kept my pen and my paper near me, just in case I had some rhymes or something. I was still writing rhymes at that time. And I wrote the name down phonetically the best way I could. And I said to myself, that's a sweet name. See how we think the things that are falling is sweet? And I said, I'm going to put that name in a rhyme. That's going to be the name of a girl. I'm going to put in a rhyme. And I happened to mention it to my Israelite brother, Brother Quab. And he said to me, man, he said, that name is in the book of Enoch. That's the consort of Azazel, is what he told me. And it appeared to me that a fallen or some sort of demonic type entity had tried to entice me in my dream. And that's what happened. But yeah, I spelled it pretty much the way that it is spelled. Okay? But let's continue. So now, they all swore together, and they bound themselves by mutual execrations. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Arman. That mountain, therefore, was called Arman, which is also where we get arms from, as in small caliber arms, because they had sworn upon it and bound themselves by mutual execrations. These are the names of their chiefs: Samyasa, who was their leader; Uraka Baramiel, Akabiel, Tamiel, Ramuel, Danel, Azkiel, Saraknael, and Asael. Armors. Yeah. Armors. A-R-M-E-R-S. This is the leaders' names now. Batraal, Anain, A-N-A-N-E, Zavebi, Samsabiel, Urtael, Turel, Yamyael, and Arazael. These were the prefects of the 200 angels, and the remainder were all with them. Then they took wives, each choosing for himself, whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabited. They shacked, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees. And the women, conceiving, brought forth giants. Now we think in the carnal mind, we say, now how could a woman have a giant? Or how could a giant being physically copulate with a woman? Well, like I found out in my dream, they can change their appearance. These are spiritual beings. They can manipulate that part of what we call reality. Some of us know it's not so real anyway. It appears real. So they could manipulate their physical shape. And the women, conceiving, brought forth giants, whose stature was each 300 cubits. This is huge. These devoured all which the labor of men produced, until it became impossible to feed them. So because they were so big, these big, incredible Hulk and Transformer sized beings, and by the way, both the Incredible Hulk and the Transformers are one of the many representations that you'll find in pop culture of the fallen beings. Okay, all throughout different myths and theologies of different cultures, you will find these giant beings. I remember we were taught that the giant statues that you'll find in Egypt weren't just giant because the egos of the pharaohs was grandiose, but because there were actual giant beings, giant comparative to what we call big today. Okay, Shaq would be a dwarf child to them. Okay, so they was eating up everything. They devoured everything that the labor of men produced until it became impossible to feed them. Then, when they turned themselves against men in order to devour them, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, to eat their flesh one after another, and to drink their blood, then the earth reproved the unrighteous. When you do so much dirt to the earth, this is another reason that it's viewed as a physical being, and not getting into the New Age perspective of that, in which people worship the earth like people worship the stars, people worship the moon, people worship the sun. You should not worship the earth, but you do recognize that it is a living thing. And when you injure a living thing, if it has the ability to strike back, it does. Okay, it is. It has a immune system. Earthquakes, volcanoes. Okay, like you have an immune system. There are belief systems in which people call themselves Earths because of the relationship of this physical body to the physical body or the planet that we live on. Things live on you. Microscopic things on you all day. I don't care how much you scrub with dial, child. It's something on you. You look up under a microscope, you'll see it. And these living things, you know, they talk about bacteria and good bacteria and bad bacteria and all that other madness, but once things begin to abuse that which they live on, this living thing covered by the giant organ that we call skin fights back against those things. You begin to bump up and lump up. Okay? Things go into action, lymph nodes and different things go into action to try to fight against that which is harming this body. Okay? Same thing is happening in the physical world that we live outside of this body. Okay? I hope that was clear. Again, without the New Age sensibility of it, but just understanding the bigger picture, the bigger meaning of it. So they ended up turning themselves against men in order to devour them. They needed more food, so they began to eat people, and this is the birthplace of eating of human flesh. Okay, human flesh is not to be eaten. The animals don't have to eat human flesh. When a situation comes where an animal has to eat human flesh, something has been thrown out of balance and out of order. That's why it's such a important thing to vampires and to those who are into the deep, dark, depraved levels of the occult to eat flesh, because it's such an abomination. It's doing as the fallen did, and they can become so possessed with the energy of the fallen that they will eat flesh. Okay, my mom used to get on me for biting my nails. I didn't understand it at the time. Okay, but you know, you get to biting your nails, you will get to biting down into the hard flesh from time to time. You know, once your nails have developed the defense against you biting on them, okay, you're gonna bite down into some flesh and at times taste some blood. And this is a demonic thing. I didn't know it, and I don't know if she knew it consciously. But let's continue. So they turned themselves against men in order to devour them, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, to eat their flesh one after another, and to drink their blood. Again, you don't drink the blood. If you like your food raw, you know, you eat sushi, talk to the Father about it. You believe that Paul told you can eat everything you want to eat. So now you're on a seafood diet. You eat every time you see food. But there's some things you're not supposed to eat, and some ways you're not supposed to prepare food. I am against having meat any way but well done. You can just about burn it for me. But some folks, you know, steak tartare and different things, see, they give it a name to make you think in your goofy mind that you're doing something of the highfalutin kind. Look at all of the delicacies. Look at how nasty the delicacies are. Escargot, snail, caviar, fish eggs, lobsters, a little... It is a version of a scorpion. It is a mix of a scorpion. It is connected to the arachnid family. So is your crab. And all this is supposed to be good eating. You take a girl to Red Lobster, you know, you're going to expect some love. Have mercy. But then the earth reproved the unrighteous. So the earth began to fight back against that. Moreover, Azazel, and this is the being that you find in Denzel's movie The Fallen. Okay. Moreover, Azazel, some people say Azazel, taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, the fabrication of mirrors. You need a mirror? Well, because we trim our mustaches and beards, and because ladies put on makeup, which you're going to find where that came from too, we need mirrors. But a mirror is a strange and occultic reversing, an unnatural reversing of reality by way of crystals, and it is a form of crystalmancy. You put mancy on the end of something, it denotes a form of magic. Necro, meaning the dead, necropolis, dead city. Necromancy. Okay, crystalmancy. Alright, you get the picture. So the fabrication of mirrors was taught by Azazel, and there are some spells in witchcraft, even baby bear spells, that require the mirror. You can think back to as kids, we was scaring each other by saying, if you go in the mirror and you say Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, 3 times Bloody Mary appear, but the light got to be off. And if you was as evil and hateful as I was, you hide in the curtain, behind the shower curtain, while your cousin's standing in there doing it, not knowing you in there, and jump out and scare him half to death. But also we would see in the movie Candyman some years later that same dynamic, okay, of calling on the spirit in the mirror. And that 3 times dynamic, you also see that in Beetlejuice, calling Beetlejuice's name three times. All of this comes from real spells that are done with mirrors. Now, is it a sin to look in the mirror? I mean, you know, we've learned to use these tools, and by the grace and mercy of the Most High, He's allowed for us to use even the most heinous tools to do some good. And you can think of something good that you do in the mirror. You put it in the comment section. And yes, I have to look in the mirror in order to trim my beard, which you're not supposed to do. Okay, and that's a transgression that's between me and the Lord, not me and you. But I admit it, and I also admit that when you're looking in the mirror, you tend to say and think all manners of things. Does any pride come to you when you're looking in the mirror? What about spirit of unworthiness for some? They look in the mirror and they don't like what they see. Shame on them. It ain't me. But I digress. And the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments, the use of paint. That's right, I have a merry heart. Sometimes, somebody, I'm comfortable. Why are you uncomfortable? You're in the wrong place. Moreover, Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, the fabrication of mirrors, and the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments. Yeah. We've all worn jewelry. Sometimes we still wear it, don't we? I'm just telling you where it comes from. I'm reading the book. I didn't write it. The use of paint. Now it's interesting. This is going to get more specific, because you're going to learn what type of paint it is. Not the paint to paint your house. Your house might need a new coat. But does your face, the beautifying of the eyebrows, people cutting lines in their eyebrows. I remember we was doing that back when I first seen MC Light do it in the Cha 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 video, and Big Daddy Kane. Okay, now that's come back. People don't know where it come from. They'll hear it's African and it's tribal. And when I was a game goofy goober, and a young guy following, looking for an identity like a lot of young people do. It's natural to do so, but just tell yourself the truth about whatever you're doing. So eventually you can be delivered. Okay, as long as you're living in denial, you're going to drown, because that's a river in Egypt. But now, if a person tells you it comes from Africa, you have been given the lie that there was nothing that the African natives did that they learned from the fallen. So this is another reason that we're reading this book, to help some of you get out of that, in case you've not been acquainted with the fallen. I maintain that until you understand the fallen angels and their interaction with man and their interference in things, everything else you think you know will only confuse you. Let's continue. Anybody that won't tell you about the fallen connection, they'll point you all the way back to ancient times, and they'll leave you out there bad. It's as bad as somebody driving you all the way to the deep dark depths of the east side and dropping you off and not telling you nothing about how to get back or what's there. And that's exactly what happens. You end up going all the way back, as far back as you can go. You following Sumer and Babylon, and you was told it was black, so it's all good. And so therefore what's not overstood is the fact that the first civilizations who were taught by the fallen were the original civilizations of the original man. That's right. And so you got to look twice at doing things just to hold on to your heritage. It's as bad as a dude walking around in a kilt because he's holding on to his Scottish heritage. He's not thinking about the shindig and what that was really all about. He's not thinking about that. That's what made Kanye step up in that dress, and that's what's making a lot of dudes, a lot of the rappers now, is wearing slick side dresses, and you know it. You know they are. Okay? But somebody has whispered in their ear and told them something about this, like the Scottish wearing the kilt, the ancient Commission wearing the shindig. And again, all of these things come from influences that were given to men by the fallen. Okay? So the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows. Now what's wrong with some cosmetics, ladies? Anyone? It's called makeup. Do makeup and make-believe have anything in common? Make up a story. Make up a new identity. Let's make up a new game to play, I used to say. I used to be the one to make it up too. But it has to do with the imagination, creating something, magi, nation, the sorcery of the magi, creating something to cause an illusion. Like the mirror is an illusion. Everything's on the wrong side in the mirror. It's not reality. What's being reflected back is the equal opposite, which really is a misnomer, because there is no equal opposite. If it's opposite, how can it be equal? But we're taught these things. Okay, so when you're looking at the mirror, or when you're looking at a woman up under her makeup, I think back on the scene from I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. You know, that's a thing. Its origin is to deceive. Okay? Now, if the house needs some paint on it, paint that house. Please. Have mercy. Make it easy on our eyes. But realize, know where these things come from. Okay? The use of stones of every valuable and select kind. And it's interesting, you know. People came out to Colorado and California too, the Golden State, and they established all sorts of industry off of stones that shined being given value to mankind. According to this book, these things were all taught by the fallen, and in particular Azazel, which is why Azazel was the fallen angel's name that was used in the movie Fallen, because he's a big dog, he's big balling, and he taught you the art of big balling, the use of stones of every valuable and select kind. They're just stones, and of all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered. That's what it say. All of these things were done to alter the world around us, to alter things from their natural appearance and give them another appearance. This is transfiguration. This is a form of deception when it's transfiguration used for the purpose of making something appear to be what it's not. Okay, that's a form of deception as we're seeing it being told to us here. And why did they do these things? Again, you have to look at the intent too. Are there times in which when you're in warfare, when you got to operate in stealth? Absolutely. There are times in which you got to do that. That's part of warfare. Okay, but people say all's fair in love and war. Love shouldn't be like war. They're supposed to be polar opposites. But in the warfare of love, makeup is a weapon. So Azazel taught mankind two types of weapons. He taught one type of weapon for males in general. That was swords, knives, shields, breastplates. These are things little boys play with little versions of, and big boys play with the big versions. And then he taught women their weaponry, the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows, the use of stones of every valuable and select kind. Got a woman that's turning you away? Give one of them select stones and see what you have to say. So again, these things are used to enchant. They're used to influence. People kill over these stones, and people covet them. The rap world has been used for some time to indoctrinate the minds of young, impoverished people into putting a lot of value on these things when it's so far from their reality to be able to afford them. When keeping the lights on and keeping food in the fridge is of paramount importance. In reality, it's part of this fantasy, this illusion to desire these stones. Got a pocket full of stones and of all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered. Lust of the flesh, pride of life, lust of the eyes. Impiety increased. Fornication multiplied, all because of these things. And they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. All because of these things being introduced to mankind. By who? The fallen. Look at the great civilizations that were built upon these stones. Queen Elizabeth and the rest of them keep and hold these stones and covet these stones, and her right to claim her throne and her falsified bloodline and everything. Most of all, her riches is based upon having a collection of these stones that mankind has been taught to covet. Now, some people will talk about the gold standard and say we should go back to the gold standard, or we should go back to the old standard. I can do this for you, you can do that for me. Okay, let's trade. All right, instead of something that really ain't worth nothing. And I get your argument. I saw my brother War Machine had made a good case that okay, there are some practical applications for these stones, true, but they are far between and few. One thing that I know is that in occult rituals, you need to have certain stones on you, because yes, they do conduct energy. All right, money is called currency, like an electric current. Okay, current meaning happening right now, but also the energy. Interesting. Current affair, and it's a true current affair. Okay, but if money was based on jewelry, which is really about these stones, okay, then we would still be locked into a fallen angel type of mentality, because people would be killing and stealing for those. And those who possess certain stones, think about the ephod in the Old Testament. To arrange the stones in a certain manner conducts certain spiritual energies through your body. And so there is more significance than meets the eye to the fact that we put them on our fingers or on our hands or around our wrists or around our neck. Okay? The chain reaction, instant respect. Is that part of the spiritual effect? Let's continue. Now, Mazarek taught all the sorcerers and dividers of roots. Down south, they talk about somebody put roots on you. Armors taught the solution of sorcery. So with so much sorcery going on, that there was sorcery taught to undo sorcery. And I don't think that that's really possible. A house divided against itself cannot stand. How can Satan cast out Satan? So they play at both ends against the middle, even. And that's how you run some game. Barkael taught the observers of the stars. So he taught, there were already people who were observing the stars, and he taught them. He gave them more game about what they was looking at. And of course, that meant giving them the lie. Okay? No long-standing belief can be worth any merit unless it is built on the foundation of some truth, even if it's a lie at the core, at the root. Okay? And that's the problem with astrology. It's not that times and seasons don't have an effect on all living things, of course. You know that. When you look at the trees, go through their changes in the different seasons. That is indicative of that fact. Okay, but it's about what you're taught about it. So now you don't talk to nobody born in April because you told that you don't get along with Aries, or you don't mess with nobody who's born in March because your ex was a Pisces and you had a bad experience with them. So they throw off everything. Or you have to look in the paper to see whether you're going to have a good day or a bad day. Somebody going to tell you based on what they seen in the stars if you're going to be blessed and highly favored. Nah, that ain't how it's supposed to go. Akibiel taught signs. Tamiel taught astronomy. Now, nomenclature. Okay, anonymous, nom, that has to do with name. So astronomy is the names of the stars. So he taught the names of the stars. So is it any coincidence that today we're calling stars by names that relate to pagan entities? Let's continue. And Azaradel taught the motion of the moon. Think of how many songs have to do with the moon. Blue Moon. Jamaica had a great song. I used to love the song, Mr. Moon. Okay? And the moon has its effect on mankind, on the emotions of man, and on the cycles of women. It has its effect on the tide. And we're also told, I've always heard for years, that when the moon is full, so is the jailhouse and the crazy house. Yeah. They said people wild out more when the moon is full, and this is where you get the term lunatic. It's also exemplified in the werewolf stories, how the wolf man, okay, is changed by the moon being full. Okay, and this also relates to why the Lord said he hates the feast days, because the Israelites began to be turned by these belief systems that were here from the beginning, because so were the fallen. And just because something goes all the way back to the beginning does not mean that you should ascribe to it or live by it. Because if you know who taught man in the beginning, according to the book of Enoch and according to what we know through other studies and just having some game about ourselves, it was the fallen. So if you go back to the beginning and put all your trust in what was supposedly done in the beginning, and you mirror that, all you're going to do is be closer to mirroring the things that the fallen angels taught from Jump Street. In order to overstand jazz music, do you go all the way back to the beginning? Is there a period of time where experts agree let's not say experts, people that listen to the music, that actually apply the music and play the music. Is there a time when those people will say, when musicians will say, well, you know, there was an apex during this time, you know, during the time of Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, whatever people may say, okay, there is evolution in things, if not, you know, not in man. We understand creation, but things go from, okay, we're at the beginning level of something, and it's lightweight jamming, and then we go up some levels, we improve. Okay, let's say improvement, not evolution, because evolution is what that's all about. But there is improvement over time. Things become improved. Things become vetted and edited. Okay, some things that were done in tradition are seen as just that, as tradition. And then somebody comes along and challenges tradition and says, well, why do we do it this way? Well, we do it because we're used to it, is what the old folks say. But then somebody says, well, you know what, let's try a new way. And this is improvement. All right, Messiah was a great representation of improving on a thing, not throwing it aside, not saying, well, you know what, bump the old school. He gave up much respect to the old school by beginning with Isaiah. But he showed improvement. That's how you show improving. Let's continue. And men, being destroyed, cried out, and their voice reached to heaven. Chapter 9. Here comes the good guy. The good guy crew. Chapter 9. Then Michael, and remember, El is a suffix loosely translated to mean Lord or of the Lord. That's why when you look at all of their names, what we're told by the Hebrew scholars that play all kinds of games, but we're told that different ones is this of El, you know, the strength of El, or to be like El, and so on and so forth. And then you'll have people like Vernon Maxwell, who will tell you, well, El was an evil god, and this was one of the pagan gods of the Canaanites, and this, that, and the third. But you know, you study that and you see what your spirit tells you about it. I've called upon them to go against the dark side, and they do their thing, okay, by the names that we know them by. And that is the grace and the mercy of the Most High, who is not one who suffers from OCD, okay, nor is he a respecter of persons, where he said, I only respect those who can speak ancient Aramaic. I only respect those who have been to college and done an extensive study on theology, so they know the truth about me, and I'll only listen to them. Then he would be an elitist, and he's not that. And now to you. Yes, he says, my people perish for lack of knowledge, but not the knowledge from college, fool. Knowledge by the Holy Spirit. They perish for lack of knowledge of the scriptures. Study to show thyself approved. Study that. And then come talk to me. And now to you, O ye holy ones of heaven, the souls of men complain, saying, obtain justice for us with the Most High. Then they said to their Lord, the King, thou art Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings. The throne of thy glory is forever and ever, and forever and ever is thy name sanctified and glorified. Thou art blessed and glorified. First they praised thee. It's a good thing to begin your prayers with praise, and end your prayers with praise. The prayers that I have sent out there to folks, they end in praise. But let's improve, okay, as we always can do if we seek to do that. Okay, perfection is a process, okay, the process of progress. So you begin your prayers with praise as well, okay. Thou hast made all things. Thou possessest power over all things, and all things are open and manifest before thee. Thou beholdest all things, and nothing can be concealed from thee. Thou hast seen what Azazel has done, how he has taught every species of iniquity upon earth. and has disclosed to the world all the secret things which are done in the heavens. So he took the spiritual knowledge that they had, being the fallen, kicked out, and he gave a perverted version of it to man. Okay, it's like putting a handgun in a baby's hand. Mercy, with a hair trigger. Thou hast seen what Azazel has done, how he has taught every species of iniquity upon earth, and has disclosed to the world all the secret things which are done in the heavens. Semyaze also has taught sorcery, to whom thou hast given authority over those who are associated with him. So you see, Semyaze was cross-dressing too in my dream. Mercy. They have gone together to the daughters of men, have lain with them, have become polluted, because it was transgression on both sides. The human beings may have been naive and childlike and were easily fooled by these ancient beings who were watchers, and they sat above and they had a greater understanding of things. So it was like an adult taking advantage of a child. Okay, but on the so that was a transgression on both sides, because the child should have stayed in their place, but the fallen angels had way too much to touch. They was working with way too much. So they were doubly wrong, because they knew better. And they polluted themselves as having been angelic beings and were supposed to stay on a certain spiritual level, even as watchers. And they came down from the level that they were supposed to be on. Okay? And they got down and dirty, literally, with the women of men. And they polluted the women, and they themselves were polluted by doing so. Okay? By lowering their estate, by lowering the house, the level they were supposed to be living on. And have discovered crimes to them. Discovered, took the cover off of crimes. Okay, showed them crimes, showed them new crime. Like people learn when they go to the penitentiary a lot of time. The women likewise have brought forth giants. Thus hath the whole earth been filled with blood and with iniquity. And now behold, the souls of those who are dead cry out and complain even to the gate of heaven. Their groaning ascends, nor can they escape from the unrighteousness which is committed on earth. Thou knowest all things before they exist. Thou knowest these things and what has been done by them, yet thou dost not speak to us. What on account of these things ought we to do to them? So Michael and them is ready to put them together. Chapter 10. Then the Most High, the Great and Holy One, spoke and sent Arasa Yalalayer to the son of Lamech, saying, say to him in my name, conceal thyself. Then explain to him the consummation which is about to take place. For all the earth shall perish. The waters of a deluge, flood, shall come over the whole earth, and all things which are in it shall be destroyed. And now teach him how he may escape, and how his seed may remain in all the earth. And the Lord said to Raphael, who is a chief angel, Rapha, Yahweh Rapha, which is the healing angel, the healing of El, or the healing of the Lord, bind Azazel, hand and foot, cast him into darkness, and opening the desert which is in Dudael, cast him in there. And you better believe that these devils who are waging wars on all sorts of levels in desert places, they're not doing it for money. Whenever somebody tells you that the bottom line is money, they don't see the bottom line. They print the money. The money ain't based off nothing. They make it come from out of the air. It's what the black card is all about. So they don't need money to accomplish nothing. But they do believe that they need to get in contact with these beings who taught mankind all sorts of things. So they're digging. They're looking in caves. They're looking up on the desert areas, trying to loose these things. It has to do with Revelations 9:11 and Apollyon coming out of the pit, Abaddon. And this is that time. Okay, so that also further shows that Enoch was for now. This book is for now. Okay? Throw upon him hurled and pointed stones, covering him with darkness. There shall he remain forever. Cover his face that he may not see the light. And in the great day of judgment, let him be cast into the fire. Restore the earth, which the angels have corrupted. So you pray, you ask, when you are so led to ask for angels by name, Raphael is the restoration or healing and restoration. Heal the earth, restore the earth. Restore the earth, which the angels have corrupted, and announce life to it, that I may revive it. Again, all of these are terms that have to do with healing. All the sons of men shall not perish in consequence of every secret by which the watchers have destroyed, and which they have taught their offspring. The mighty men of renown, who Greek myths and legends and Egyptian myths and legends that birthed the Greek myths and legends come from. Most importantly, Osiris, when old Maury Povich was still trying to be a real journalist and not the Who's the Baby Daddy man, he had a special I saw come on TV. I believe it was on Fox in the 90s or maybe the early 2000s, where him and what's the guy named Zahawi, I think is his name, but the guy who's always guiding them through Egypt, through the tombs and different things. He's the official Egyptian curator guy, or archaeologist guy. Anyway, they uncovered the tomb of Osiris, and it was a giant sarcophagus there, submerged in water. That's right. These was good guys, though. They was good guys. Look at what they taught mankind. Look at how they taught mankind how to be rulers. Okay? And then people can still beguile you and play off your pride, basically flattering you to run some game on you by telling you that you was a king or a queen. If everybody's a king and a queen, who they gonna rule? Where the subjects gonna come from? So no, the king and the queen was a certain class, a certain bloodline, or a certain connection to the fallen by way of the priesthood. And they always worked hand in hand. At one time, there was one and the same. The king would be called the king because he had that desirous bloodline or that desirous bloodline connection to the fallen, and therefore the fallen was feeding him information from within by the king allowing himself to be a vessel used to house these beings. And then these beings would then speak through the king and cause him to do miraculous things, great signs and wonders. And then this person becomes the king. And this is why from that time to now, you have the same dynamic of the kings and queens of the earth, Psalms 2:2, gathering together against the Lord and against his anointed. Because they're not trying to be down with the Most High. They're trying to be down with the Most Low. Because it's more things that they believe that they want to know. And that's the big exchange. To get this secret knowledge from these fallen things. And the sons of men shall not perish in consequence of every secret by which the watchers have destroyed, in which they have taught their offspring. All the earth has been corrupted by the effects of the teaching of Azazel. To him, therefore, ascribe the whole crime. See, he was trying to balance the weight off on his homeboys, and he still got charged the whole time. And football numbers ain't what he gonna do. Believe it. To Gabriel, also the Lord said, the messenger, Gabriel, whatever, go to the biters, to the reprobates, to the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, the offspring of the watchers, from among men. Bring them forth and excite them one against another. That's why you have so much infighting among the brotherhoods. Yeah, they can't get along, so they're going to get it on. Let them perish by mutual slaughter, for length of days shall not be theirs. They shall all entreat thee, and they're going to try to beg you and give you a treat. but their fathers shall not obtain their wishes respecting them. For they shall hope for eternal life, and that they may live, each of them 500 years. To Michael, he's the big boss of the hot sauce, by whom the dragon will be tossed. To Michael, likewise, the Lord said, Go and announce his crime to Simyasa and to the others who are with him, who have been associated with women, that they might be polluted with all their impurity. And when all their sons shall be slain, when they shall see the perdition of their beloved, bind them for 70 generations underneath the earth, even to the day of judgment and of consummation, until the judgment, the effect of which will last forever, be completed. Then shall they be taken away into the lowest depths of the fire in torments, and in confinement shall they be shut up forever. Immediately after this shall he, together with them, burn and perish. They shall be bound until the consummation of many generations. Destroy all the souls addicted to dalliance, and the offspring of the watchers, for they have tyrannized over mankind. Let every oppressor perish from the face of the earth. Let every evil work be destroyed. The plant of righteousness and of rectitude appear, and its produce become a blessing. Righteousness and rectitude shall be forever planted with delight. And then shall all the saints give thanks and live until they have begotten 1,000 children, while the whole period of their youth and their Sabbaths shall be completed in peace. In those days all the earth shall be cultivated in righteousness. It shall be wholly planted with trees, and filled with benediction. Every tree of delight shall be planted in it. In it shall vines be planted, and the vine which shall be planted in it shall yield fruit to satiety, to satiate, to satisfy. So in it shall vines be planted, and the vines themselves shall produce seed. And the vine which shall be planted in it shall yield fruit to satiety. Every seed which shall be sown in it shall produce for 1 measure 1,000, and 1 measure of olives shall produce 10 presses of oil. Purify the earth from all oppression, from all injustice, from all crime, from all impiety, and from all the pollution which is committed upon it. Exterminate them from the earth. Then shall all the children of men be righteous, and all nations shall pay me divine honors and bless me, and all shall adore me. The earth shall be cleansed from all corruption, from every crime, from all punishment, and from all suffering. Neither will I again send a deluge upon it from generation to generation forever. In those days I will open the treasures of blessing which are in heaven, that I may cause them to descend upon earth, and upon all the works and labor of man. Peace and equity shall associate with the sons of men all the days of the world, in every generation of it. Now, we're going to introduce Enoch. Then we're going to look at a few questions and answers, and then we'll come back to this after you say what you have to concerning it. Okay? Chapter 12, Section 3. Before all these things, Enoch was concealed, nor did any one of the sons of men know where he was concealed, where he had been, and what had happened. Now, when we read the book of Jasher, there will be more about Enoch in that book. He was wholly engaged with the holy ones and with the watchers in his days. Now, what Enoch basically was a prophet who came not only to send judgment to his own, which all prophets do that, but he was a special prophet, a last days prophet, because his judgment was also to the fallen. That's right. I, Enoch, was blessing the great Lord and King of peace, and behold, the watchers called me Enoch the scribe. Don't hate on writers. Then the Lord said to me, Enoch, scribe of righteousness, go, tell the watchers of heaven who have deserted the lofty sky and their holy everlasting station, who have been polluted with women, and have done as the sons of men do, by taking to themselves wives, and who have been greatly corrupted on the earth. Now you can imagine, if a fallen one takes a wife, a man ain't got nothing coming. Okay? This fallen one is a mighty giant dude, first of all. Secondly, he's got access to all these stones and jewelry. So, you know, they live in a lavish life. And this is where this belief and philosophy and behavior of man also can find its origin. Okay, the Jezebel spirit and the connection of, you know, beyond security, because men are to provide security, but women wanting to be lavished upon with luxurious items. And men, you know, they was the first tricks. Men busting they behinds to be on the level of the fallen and give them things that the fallen could reach down in mines in the depths of the earth and pull out. And now, you know, men have to save up 3 months worth of pay, okay, and you know, do all sorts of things today just to try to help a woman live this way. So everything got thrown out of balance. Okay. Interesting, you know, he spoke on them being polluted with women, which is the having sex with women, but then he talks about taking them as wives. That's another level. So they was going to keep the women by buying the women. This is also the origin of whoredom. Okay? Whoremongering, being a whore, and buying a whore. Okay? Both have their root in this behavior of the fallen. Because again, they can provide things beyond ordinary men. And this would change the taste. This threw things out of balance, changed the parameters of what was expected. And why stars are revered. Women want to sleep with stars, you know, even if it's hood stars. They want to associate themselves with the person who's on that level, looked up to. These men were looked up to. It's interesting, that terminology, to look up to. They were giant. So you had to look up to them. But this is where this term comes from. People looking up to the giants. Okay? The way that basketball players, they play a game. Okay? A child's game. Basketball, football players, these giant individuals, it's just a coincidence, maybe I'm reaching, okay, are given giant-sized salaries to play a child's game, something that's relatively unimportant on the scale of things, okay, compared to a person that runs into a fiery building and saves a family. Okay, there's no comparison. They're not looked up to in the same manner. People will say they do. Okay, you know, once a man does something heroic, it ups his ante. All right, but you understand my point. This is the origin of, you know, stars being looked up to. Whew, that was too heavy for somebody. Somebody got it though. Let's continue. That on the earth they shall never obtain peace and remission of sins. So he's telling Enoch, regular sized guy, to go and talk to these beings who used to be watchers in the sky and tell them what he was told to tell them by the Most High. And you scared to tell somebody something. You scared by a pit. That on the earth they shall never obtain peace and remission of sin, for they shall not rejoice in their offspring. They shall behold the slaughter of their beloved, and shall lament for the destruction of their sons, and shall petition forever, but shall not obtain mercy and peace. So forever and ever you have the fallen petitioning. That's the jealousy that they have against man, and why they use man the way that they do. You know, a huge portion of it, because mankind has remission of sin. They don't. And they cry, and they cry, and they cry. It was brought to my attention that there's another way to hear the songwriter's secret, and I'm going to look into it. And that is that the fallen, who inspire man by the spirits, by the muses, by the demons, they inspire man who sings songs of praise and lamentation to them, okay, to these beings, to these spiritual beings, but yet the spiritual beings themselves mean for the songs to be lamentations to the Most High. That they're using man as a go-between to sing these praises. The man is singing the praises to the spirit being out of his gang goofiness, but the spirit being is like, no, we can't do that. We can't even speak to the Father, so we're petitioning to the Father through you. So all that crying and whining and pleading and begging in the love songs is not the man to a woman. It is the man to a spirit being, but the spirit being to the Most High. Heavy duty. I thank you to Minister Catherine, Mother Israel, who put me up on that perspective. Then Enoch, this is chapter 13. Then Enoch, passing on, said to Azazel, passing on what? Passing on the message. Said to Azazel. Now, how did he get in touch with Azazel? That's part of where you get Enochian magic from, and where, again, the things of the Most High can never be destroyed. They can be tainted, but the original copy, the original, can never be destroyed and is always accessible to man, even through man's translations by the Holy Spirit. Being able to decipher the true meaning of something by seeing through the disguise of the illusion that was placed on top of it. The Most High would never remove himself from man's ability to access him. So this is where it becomes utter foolishness to become of the elitist mindset that only those of us who know this certain knowledge or speak this certain language or have read this certain book or this certain teaching or have this faith in what the scholars say will have access. Because some po folks, where you from? Where I'm from, it's an 80% illiteracy rate. So you mean to tell me that the Most High is going to let all of them people perish because they're not interested in reading books, but the lives that they lead make them cry out to the Lord more than you do with your book reading self? Tell that to somebody else. I was born at night, but not last night. Then Enoch, passing on, said to Azazel, Thou shalt not obtain peace. A great sentence is gone forth against thee. He shall bind thee. Telling him what's going to happen to him. You can imagine Azazel's face probably balled up like an old sock. Neither shall relief, mercy, and supplication be thine, on account of the oppression which thou hast taught, and on account of every act of blasphemy, tyranny, and sin which thou hast discovered to the children of men. Then departing from him, I spoke to them all together. So he went and gave a message to the boss of the hot sauce. Then he went to his peons, his following boys. And they all became terrified and trembled, beseeching me to write for them a memorial of supplication, that they might obtain forgiveness. This goes to that other version of the songwriter's secret, does it not? And that I might make the memorial of their prayer ascend up before the God of heaven, because they could not themselves thenceforwards address him, or raise up their eyes to heaven on account of the disgraceful offense for which they were judged. So They use the songwriter, who oftentimes has come from the church, in order to slick side, petition for them, to beg for mercy for them, to express their love or their feelings of rejection. It gets deeper, don't it? Rabbit hole. For real. Then I wrote a memorial of their prayer and supplication for their spirits, for everything which they had done, and for the subject of their entreaty, that they might obtain remission and rest. So he became an advocate for them, as in legal advocate. Okay, he was chosen as a scribe. He was chosen by the Most High to go to deliver the judgment to them. And then he had that type of favor even among them, that when he went and delivered judgment to them, then none of them raised a hand to him. They trembling and begging his pardon. And could you please write us a prayer of forgiveness? Then I wrote a memorial of their prayer and supplication for their spirits, for everything which they had done, and for the subject of their entreaty, that they might obtain remission and rest. Proceeding on, I continued over the waters of Dan-Badan, which is on the right to the west of Arman, reading the memorial of their prayer until I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions appeared above me. I fell down and saw a vision of punishment, that I might relate it to the sons of heaven, and reprove them, chastise them, tell them no. When I awoke, I went to them, all being collected together, stood weeping on Ubel Seyael, which is situated between Libanos and Seneser, with their faces veiled. I related in their presence all the visions which I had seen in my dream, and began to utter these words of righteousness, reproving the watchers of heaven. And this will be the last one. We'll stop here. Okay, chapter 14. This is the book of the words of righteousness and of the reproof of the watchers, who belong to the world, according to that which he who is holy and great commanded in the vision. I perceived in my dream that I was now speaking with a tongue of flesh, and with my breath, which the Mighty One has put into the mouth of men, that they might converse with it, and understand with the heart. And he has created and given to men the power of comprehending the word of understanding. So has he created and given to me the power of reproving the watchers, the offspring of heaven. I have written your petition, and in my vision it has been shown me that what you request will not be granted you as long as the world endures. Judgment has been passed upon you. Your request will not be granted you. From this time forward, never shall you ascend into heaven. He has said that on the earth he will bind you as long as the world endures. So they are here. But before these things, no higher than our atmosphere, you shall behold the destruction of your beloved sons. You shall not possess them, but they shall fall before you by the sword. Neither shall you entreat for them, nor for yourselves. You can't petition for them or you. It's a rap city. But you shall weep and supplicate in silence. The words of the book which I wrote, a vision thus appeared to me. Behold, in that vision, clouds and a mist invited me. Agitated stars and flashes of lightning impelled and pressed me forwards, while winds in the vision assisted my flight, accelerating my progress. They elevated me aloft to heaven. I proceeded until I arrived at a wall built with stones of crystal. A vibrating flame surrounded it, which began to strike me with terror. Into this vibrating flame I entered. I imagined in my mind's eye the Stargate portal, and drew nigh to a spacious habitation, built also with stones of crystal. Its walls too, as well as pavement, were formed with stones of crystal, and crystal likewise was the ground. Its roof had the appearance of agitated stars and flashes of lightning, and among them were cherubim of fire in a stormy sky. A flame burned around its walls, and its portal blazed with fire. When I entered into this dwelling, it was hot as fire and cold as ice. You were cold as ice. No trace of delight or of life was there. Terror overwhelmed me, and a fearful shaking seized me. Violently agitated and trembling, I fell upon my face. In the vision I looked, and behold, there was another habitation more spacious than the former, every entrance to which was open before me, erected in the midst of a vibrating flame. It was a flashing light. So greatly did it excel in all points, in glory, in magnificence, and in magnitude, that it is impossible to describe to you either the splendor or the extent of it. Its floor was on fire. Above were lightnings and agitated stars, while its roof exhibited a blazing fire. Attentively I surveyed it, and saw that it contained an exalted throne, the appearance of which was like that of frost, while its circumference resembled the orb of the brilliant sun, and there was the voice of the cherubim. From underneath this mighty throne rivers of flaming fire issued. To look upon it was impossible. One, great in glory, sat upon it, whose robe was brighter than the sun and whiter than snow. No angel was capable of penetrating to view the face of him, the glorious and the effulgent, nor could any mortal behold him. A fire was flaming around him. A fire also of great extent continued to rise up before him, so that not one of those who surrounded him was capable of approaching him. Among the myriads of myriads who were before him, to him holy consultation was needless. Yet did not the sanctified who were near him depart far from him, either by night or by day, nor were they removed from him. I also was so far advanced, with a veil over my face and trembling. So he's drawing near himself to this glorious and effulgent one. Then the Lord with his own mouth called me, saying, Approach hither, Enoch, at my holy word. And he raised me up, making me draw near, even to the entrance. My eye was directed to the ground. Now, if that don't make you want to read more, I don't know what will. And I think that that would be the fill of the bill. That would be most important. Okay? So, let's look at a couple of questions and comments. Okay. This is being done on a Sunday night. And I've not decided if I'm going to do a chat tonight or not, as the time is ticking away. I'm leaning toward not, and maybe we'll space them out a bit. Every week may not be the best way to do it. And again, I'm going to put the Holy Spirit to it and just see how I'm led by that. For everyone's benefit, it may be good to give notice of every other week, but weighing it out right now by the Holy Spirit. But let's look at a couple of questions from the channel, if we may. And if you've sent me an email question, I'll give you an email answer. Please do be patient. Much love to those who email me often. Big shout out to I Ride One Deep. Of course, to my niece E, in the place to be from the NYC, and to all of those who are new who view. A big shout out to Almond Joy 2, to Food and Water 1. Yes, indeed. I saw your request. If you have a more specific request, you can send it to me at unplugem@gmail.com. unplugem@gmail.com. I saw your response. Also, now some of these I'm definitely going to get around to. A humble student, you had a very interesting thing to say, and I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who's been here for a while, that's down through and through. Sister Leah Holmes. Also, now I'm looking at comments, of course, as I'm doing this. Now, you know, y'all already know who my favorites is in the class, and so we ain't gonna make nobody feel like they the last. So I'm just trying to shout out folks that I've not shouted out in some time. If we can do that, to my brother Rashad, always my main man, 50 grand again and again and again. I'm trying to see if there was anything. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, the main thing I really wanted to address was the slowing down of the vocals. Again, I've not, you know, everybody who does this truther thing wants to believe that they're so important and that they're so on point that they get messed with by the powers that be, you know. And you know, that was my first belief as to why my voice get chopped and screwed, because there's nothing that I do. And you know, some people have actually thought that's something that I would do. Do I seem that thought off to you? But you know, if I was going to do it, you know, it'd be on beat or something. It'd be a beat in there or something. But no, that's not something I do, and I'm not exactly sure what that's about. I charge it to what I've charged it to before. But you know, if it's a issue on my end digitally with the computer, then I don't know how to do anything about it at this point. You know, so I just apologize for it. But I don't believe in coincidence, and it is kind of odd how it happens in conjunction with something I'm saying when I got the unction. So, oh yes, Sister Ford asked about the Occult Ghetto series. Well, that's a series that's near and dear to my heart, because that was my, I started to say my original idea when I got on here. My original idea was to do the Songwriter's Secret, to upload the audio mentary, and then after that I got the idea for the Occult Ghettos, and I've still got quite a few written out, you know, ideas written down that I've not done yet. So yes, there will be more of those. And also I had mentioned a couple videos back that we was going to get off into the news writer's secret. Well, I'm still putting that together, and I need a few things that's not available to me right now to really do it the way that I feel like it needs to be done. But just so you can, you know, not have to wait to get an understanding of what that's about, let me just tell you from out of my mouth. It is that just like the songs are written with a dual meaning, so is the news. Not that everything that happens on the news is falsified, but the percentage of what is falsified is a lot higher than you've been led to believe. I would dare say, if I had to put a number on it, I would say 6 out of 10 stories. And that's being conservative. But I had a contact on here who I'd like to call a friend, who had put me up on the game in the very beginning. And he told me that, you know, basically his perspective was that they were all fake stories. Now, you know, I'm from Detroit, and I've seen on the Detroit news when somebody I knew got shot. It made the news, and it was true. So that's why I'm not prepared to say that it's all fake, but I am prepared to say that the largest portion of national and world news, can we say that, is all encoded information. It is the brotherhood speaking to its members. It is behavior modification programming. It is mind control, and it is steeped in numerology. Okay, also in mythology. You look at the names in the stories. You look at the names of shooters and the names of victims, and this helps to give you a better idea of whether or not you're looking at a manufactured, meaning fake, put together story or something that actually happened. Because that is always the tell of the tale. The numbers and the names. The names and the stories will betray the intention of the elite to fool you, if that's truly their intention. But, and I say that because their intention isn't purely to fool you. It's always duality. Duality creates trauma. To have two different things going on in your mind. To not be able to have closure one way or the other. Okay, to just be able to say this is fake or this is real. If it was fake, you stop watching it. If it was real, you lean into it. But they give you enough of each. Okay, the towers got hit. Okay, but the circumstances surrounding the towers getting hit and what the towers were hit by and building 7 and all those other things, see, that creates the trauma, the duality, the two different realities, the lie and the truth mingling together, the two pillars, the duality dynamic personified by the number 11. But time and time again you'll see not only the names in the stories, you know, like the names of the trolls that are set. And you trolls need to have loftier goals. Y'all troll school is awful bad. Okay, you know, if I wasn't doing this and true to this, I'm sure that if I was that much of a no good, low life, jealous hearted sucker as to be a troll, I would out troll you trolls, because you're not good. You must not have been capping in the hood. Your cap's not good, your lies not good, your game not good, your attempts to try to push my buttons not good. You're very poor at what you do. And I'm talking to you. But you will try. And that's all right. You lightsaber it up. Every day, every night. So, anyway, I don't see any more real pressing questions that I didn't get to here. Let me see what's happening. Here. One more person here. Name I didn't recognize here. Well, it wasn't it wasn't that many questions like I thought it was. And of course, big shout out to everybody from Detroit that watches. And to my brother in Texas too. Big shout out to you. But yeah, always the most love for where I'm from. It just wouldn't be right any other way. But okay. It was a question about getting on Twitter. No, I'm not gonna go much. Well, I ain't gonna say what I'm not gonna do, but no Twitter for me for now. Facebook too. I'm pretty much through. This takes enough time and effort and energy to do these, and to do these proper, and let the Holy Spirit flow to prepare what notes that I have and to share what I know. And then this is only a part of this thing. Okay, this is by far not the end. I do ministry work all day long on the other end, okay, of this screen that you're looking at. So for me to, from my understanding, Twitter requires a lot of maintenance. Okay, just checking these messages and all that type of stuff is enough for me, as it's just me right now. So no Twitter for me for now. Oh yes, and for all who answered the call to prayer, I thank you, and everything is good. I just ask that you keep all of your brothers and sisters who you know who are in need of prayer in prayer, and more importantly, that you look around you and you find someone to cling to stand in the gap for, who is in your immediate circle, who can benefit from a prayer warrior. Okay? Don't ignore that responsibility. Okay? And for those who speak so harshly upon church, first of all, that's what the enemy wants you to do. And second of all, the Most High don't love me more than he loves you. The same way he has allowed for me to be birthed from a church that was birthed from a church, there'll be churches born from this as well. What is a church? I mean, we know about the origin of the word, Kirk and Circes and all that other stuff. But the gathering of the people of the Lord to discuss the word of the Lord, to strengthen each other, to encourage each other, to sharpen each other. That's what it's all about. And you can begin that from right out of your house. You don't have to tell people about it. It's not good to do that nowadays. You know, and when I say you don't have to tell people about it, I mean broadcast it like this. Okay? Get a lot of extra attention. But in your neighborhood, okay, I could not go into a party store and not see a flyer for somebody doing hair out of their house, or for somebody throwing a party at a cabaret, or you know, people put more time, effort, and money into gathering for all of the wrong reasons. And, you know, oftentimes they take a loss. They don't always make money throwing parties and cabarets and things, but people do that, you know, at the drop of a hat. So your desire for something different than the churches that you've been given, you know, is, to me, incentive for you to create what there's a demand for. Okay? Necessity is the mother of invention. If something is needed, somebody will invent it. So it's time. It's time for folks to begin to do that. You can start off small. You got co-workers. You got neighbors that you have some relationship with. You got family members. You got friends. You got classmates. Okay? You have a neighborhood. Make you some flyers. They ain't got to be, you know, on status like some big baller's birthday party. But you may want to take some ideas from those type of things. I don't know. However you're led to do it. But make you some flyers. Okay? Next time you at the barber shop. Or ladies, next time you at the beauty salon or the hair and nail place. You know, y'all get to talking about a lot of things in there like we do in the barber shop. Well, you know the people who may be open to getting together and talking about the Lord every other week. Okay? If a person like what you're doing, they would love to turn every other week into every week. Every week can become a chore to where people start to feel like it's something they have to do. So, you know, but you do it how the Holy Spirit leads you to. And that's today's message from me to you. So if we get on and do a chat tonight, you'll be the first to know. If not, until next time, we will continue and pick up where we left off at on Enoch. We will also get to Yasher and to Baruch, as well as the news writer's secret. Okay? And begin to decode the news. Don't look at the news the way that they want you to. Just like the songwriter's secret. Don't listen to them songs like a gang goofy goober. Okay, listen to them songs with an ear that's super duper, and use your discerning eye when you're looking at these newscasters too. Recall, now somebody gonna jump on this because I know how people do me. Okay, and I ain't nobody. I ain't nowhere. I'm just a baby bear square. But if you recall in Roddy Piper's, in John Carpenter's movie They Live, starring Roddy Piper, the importance of the news station there. And if you consider the Piper sunglasses, I like to call them the Piper Lokes, that was to me analogous of now we have of how now we have HD TV, we have high definition TV. The snake has bitten its tail. Now we're able to see things because of the increased clarity, or because of the different things that they're doing frequency wise in order to facilitate the new TVs or the new digital television industry. Now we're able to see certain things, and some people still like to believe that it's digital glitches. Ain't no digital glitches. Okay, it is what it is. We're now able to see through the Piper glasses, which is just the screen now. And if you watch CNN, you'll see Brian Todd do his thing. You'll see, for those of y'all on the West Coast, you'll see Michael Brownlee doing his thing. You'll see different ones. If you watch the Fox morning shows, they got quite a few of them on there. You'll see them live yourself. You ain't got to look it up on YouTube and see shapeshifters. You can sit there and watch the news yourself. I've done it a number of times. CNN, Fox, it don't matter which one, as long as it's coming out this box. You'll be able to look at them and you'll be able to see them do the very same thing that people are making compilations of them do on YouTube. You can see it too. Remember, God don't love them more than He love you. So if they can, you can too. You can see it too. You can catch it too. So with that being said, I'm in the wind. This has been Unplug 'em once again, Brother Minister Theo. Shalom.